Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
And Jared Brandon, just as Jared Brandon.
Hey everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to death that you are listening to our show, which we love doing so much. Why, you ask? I know you're asking, but because we had, most of the time, we get to have really special guests. And we have a very special guest, a different kind of guest. Sure, we do all kinds of boutique guitar builders and pedal builders and amp builders and 101s and all kinds of crazy stuff. But we've been doing a lot of book people lately. And maybe not a lot. Maybe it's just more than we ever have, which was none. So we have a very special guest. Special guest, who are you?
I'm Lisa S. Johnson. I'm the photographer and author of two books, 108 Rockstar Guitars, that came out in 2013. And my newest book, Immortal Axes, just came out in September of 2021. And I'm really happy to be with you guys.
Thank you.
The guitar knob dudes. I'm really excited.
Well, we've logged over 250 shows talking about guitars. So you're in good company.
You fit
we
right
get
in.
it. This book, you may have seen that we've posted this on Instagram for sure. This is the one with the big candy skull on the front. It's black, it's gold. Because I love black and gold. Everybody knows that. So I was extremely excited about this. This book we're going to talk about some of the guitars in there. We're going to talk about why we should care about this and these guitars and her experience in interacting with all these things and finding all the cool details about it. Really, really excited about this. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. And I just have to say thank you for that amazing video you did that you posted on Instagram. When you received the copy of the book, you hands down get the gold star for the best. Thank you for receiving the book. I mean, you made that video of opening the book, and it was just fantastic.
That's cool.
So if any listeners haven't seen that yet, you got to go back on Guitar Knobs Instagram and try to find the opening of the Immortal Axes book, because it was very entertaining.
Yeah,
great.
Well, and it's 100% genuine. I mean, I was really blown away by it. So we've got a lot to cover, so let's get on with it. And let's see here. We need to thank someone very special. Road, and specifically our boy Nick out in Australia, helping us out with the gear and everything. And Rode's been very kind to us in providing all of our equipment. So much thanks to Rode, and hello to Nick. I also wanted to share, we get some fantastic mail sent in to us and just thoughts and, good on yous and all that business. And I just wanted to share something here. This is from John Sluhan. We'll find it in the middle, and that's how you do it. Okay. Good evening, gentlemen. What can I say? I bit the bullet and canceled my Hulu subscription, which I never use, and invested into something that I listen to every week. You guys put on one heck of a podcast. Glad to be on board this vessel you have created. To celebrate my 1-year anniversary of listening to the podcast, I became an executive producer because why not? Love the show and can't wait to hear my name read on the thing. Well, John Sluhan, thank you so very much. You're going to get it 3 times tonight. Much obliged. We really do appreciate you, and thank you for that very kind note.
And who needs Hulu anyway?
Yeah, right? I mean, I do, but that's okay. And I can't read. I've got a stack of these, and I want to read them all now, but I got to spread them out.
Save them, Todd. Save them.
But something I'm not going to save is something that we had happening on the on the Patreon front. Now, one of our longest term patrons and poobahs, Steve Keys, responded to something that I mentioned in one of our shows back a while, we were just talking about how grateful we were for our Patreon supporters and those who aren't Patreon supporters. Like we get great support from all over the place, and but specifically on Patreon, those who support us there, it's always us putting out, and we know that they're out there. And they're interacting with us on Instagram and through the mail and everything. And I just thought, like, this is a great group of people. Like, what if they were all in the same room? How awesome of a party would that be, right?
Totally.
Well, that's not going to happen. But I just kind of casually threw out, like, it'd be kind of cool if somebody started a Discord channel for the guitar knobs.
Oh, yeah. I remember you saying that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Steve said, all right, I'm doing it. And he did it. And so there's now a Discord channel. I got to get the exact information on it, what it's called and all that stuff, so everybody who wants to get in can get in, whatever. But the response from all the supporters has been great so far, and I just want to say a huge thanks to Steve Keys. He's not going to do a poobah. I mean, sorry, he already did. But anyway, Steve's doing the thing, and yeah. So we're just really stoked that he did that, and I greatly appreciate it. And I really, truly hope that everybody out there who listens to the show, even if you're not like a full-fledged patron supporter or whatever, that you are able to share your thoughts and have a good time with the other listeners. I love that idea. So thanks, Steve.
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
And again, I will have more information when I can get it and understand it. Okay. Whew. So aside from that, we got to find out what's going on in our music world this week. We're going to start off with Tony, and then we're going to check in with Lisa S. Johnson. Okay?
Okay, Todd. Well, this week, in fact, today in the mail arrived, and since we're on the subject of books, this ties in perfectly. I got a copy of Picasso Guitars, 1912 to 1914. And this was a book that came out in 2011 at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And it covers really two guitars and then the artwork surrounding those guitars. And so it's kind of two of my favorite subjects, guitars and art. So in 1912, Pablo Picasso made a cardboard guitar in his cubist fashion, and that's totally not playable, but I think he might have used it as a model for some of the paintings and drawings and things that he did. And then in 1914, he made a little sturdier version out of sheet metal. And MoMA has both of these instruments in their collection. But for this special exhibition in 2011, they gathered up, I think, another 70, paintings, drawings, sketches, whatever, and had them on a special display. And this book covers all of that. And I found out about it from a friend, and I said, well, that would fit right in with my book collection.
That's awesome.
And it does. And it's a great book. And, because it was now, over 10 years older. I got it was supposed to be a used copy, but it came in the original shrink wrap and everything, and I got it for $10. So gotta love that.
Right on, man.
What a deal.
Very nice. Lisa S. Johnson, what would you say is going on in your now? I know you're not like a hardcore guitar player or a builder or anything, but you have a lot to do with guitars. Is there anything going on in your music world?
Well, before I answer that question, I have to respond to that story about Picasso and cutting out a guitar out of cardboard, because a lot of kids, when they're trying to learn how to play guitar, do that as a young kid. And one of them, who's now famous, Frank Hannon, told me the story when I asked him at NAMM. I was asking artists, if you could name your most immortal guitar, the guitar you think is the most immortal in the world, what would it be? And Frank Hannon said, Peter Frampton's triple pickup Les Paul.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I cut out that guitar out of cardboard, and I would listen to the album Frampton Comes Alive with the headphones on and have the full experience in my head.
That's awesome.
Playing air guitar on the cutout. And I love that story because I used to lay on my bed staring at the Frampton Comes Alive album cover with headphones on, having the full experience in my head, never in a million years believing that one day I would actually photograph Peter Frampton's guitar and that he would, that very guitar, not just any guitar, that exact guitar that's on the cover of the album, and have him write the foreword for my book. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing that I got access to that guitar and he wrote the foreword for the book.
That's super cool.
I also had a response to that.
Yes, please, Jared.
So when I was a little kid,
were you ever little?
He was.
The pastor's home, their son had a drum set. And I loved the guitar from the moment I was born, so I wanted to play guitar. But when we went over to that house, when my parents dropped me off there to be babysat or whatever, the first place I would go is to that drum set. And I would start pounding on the drums. I didn't care who was asleep. So the mom there, she actually cut me out a cardboard guitar so I could play with that to keep me away from the drum set.
Wow.
Anything to not have that pounding in the house.
It's not a good a story as Lisa, but it's still funny. It's like, hey, here, play with this air, and I really liked it too. I didn't care. I still had fun with it.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about on the show before how, like, in the early days of Judas Priest, they would have. I don't know if this is gospel, everybody, but this is what I've read, and I've seen pictures of it, and it may have happened in other places beyond early Judas Priest shows or whatever, but guys would start bringing their own guitars because they were rocking so hard they wanted to be part of the show, and then it became sort of like a weird fan thing, almost like battle jackets. Like, what does your fake guitar look like? But they loved it, It's just cool. If you got to express yourself, that's what it's about.
That's cool. KK Downing told me when I was photographing his guitars that somebody brought a guitar to one of the shows, and at the end he handed it up to KK to the stage, and it was some kind of vintage Strat. Wow. I actually write about it. I photographed it. It's in my first book. I just can't remember the year of it right now. And KK still has that guitar as a keepsake.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Well, here's
That's so cool of the fans. The fans love the artist so much. They want to give back.
Little known fact about Judas Priest in the very early days, because they didn't have a lot of money. Rob Halford used to ride out on stage on a cardboard motorcycle.
No kidding.
There's that cardboard again. See how many people Picasso influenced with the cardboard guitar?
Exactly. Both Harley and Davidson.
Wild. So now, in your own personal music world, anything going on?
Yeah, I have to say I cannot be happier that the Wall Street Journal covered Immortal Axes earlier this week.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And it really goes to show the power of the media, because my publisher emailed me right away and said, hey, Wall Street Journal just covered your book, and it got a huge burst of sales on Amazon, and now you're #1 best-selling on Amazon. Yeah.
Congrats.
So I'm really proud of that. It's such an amazing accolade, and it's so much hard work, you guys, to get access to these guitars. It's years and years of hard work.
Yeah.
And I calculated it the other day. It's 26 years since I photographed my first guitar. Wow. And to have the Wall Street Journal recognize it, and to see the sales come through the media, it's really incredible. It came in as #1 in history and criticism, and #3 in music books.
That's
so
lovely.
Wow.
Well, maybe we can up that, and just anybody who has already gotten this book or is gonna get it, when you get it, go give it a good review on Amazon. Okay, everybody.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, thank you.
And if
Those
you already,
reviews, they make all the difference. I mean, it's amazing, the reviews that are on there, and the more you get, the more you rise up in the rankings.
Yeah,
Yep. And if you already have one, buy a second one for a friend.
indeed. I got one for Jared.
Yes, you did.
I have it open right now.
That's awesome.
I can't take my eyes up. So my boss came over today and showed him this book, and he was like, "Wow, I don't have this book. I don't have this book. Can I borrow it?" I'm like, "No, I need
think
it."
that was a hint, Jared. Gee,
No,
I sure would like to have one of these
I need
books.
this book.
No, my boss, he's the king of books.
So
He's
about
got
that
every guitar
PTO
book.
you were asking.
Wait
about.
a minute. I thought I was the king of books.
Yeah, Tony's the king of books.
You've got a good competitor, man. My boss has all the guitar books, everything to do with Gibson, Les Paul, even other brands. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, just so that you guys know, I am the queen of books.
Yeah.
Yes, you
that
are.
is true.
I have every guitar book you can imagine, of course, because I'm studying the subject and I want to differentiate my book from other guitar books. And so I have every guitar book under the sun.
Yeah.
Do you have the Pablo Picasso guitars from
You know,
1912 to
I
1914?
don't think I have that one, but I am familiar with the artworks. I have seen the art. Yes.
Well, let's see here. Jared, what's going on in music world?
Kind of has nothing to do with the glorious stuff that's been talked about, but it's something. So I modded a guitar for my friend Jason, and I brought home I got a pot from work that would work because he also works at Gibson, and it was a short stack, a short stack instead of a long pot, a potentiometer, and you could use those for either your volume and tone. Those are the little gadgets that go in the control cavity, and for his Telecaster, and it was too long. It was a short shaft, but it was still longer, noticeably longer than the other, and it just looked weird. And when one control knob is higher than the other, and everything else looks correct and pristine, it's bothersome. It's there, and the pot worked great, but I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry. Let me find something that'll work. So I switched it over today, and it went well. It worked really well, and he was thrilled. And to be honest, he didn't really care. I cared, but he didn't care. But he let me fix it anyway because he knew I cared. So it was one of those situations.
Nice.
But it sounds killer, and it worked out. So sorry, it's not a big interesting thing, but just know that there are different size short shaft potentiometers out there, and there's solid shaft, there's knurled, that for the different kind of, there's all sorts of different varieties of potentiometers. So pay attention.
Yes, pay attention.
So I want to know about you, Mr. Todd.
Well, I've wrote a list down of all the things, so I can only pick one, and I'll save the others because they're in development, but they're all very fun and exciting. But what I did do was I was kind of searching around for something to watch, and okay, I'm going to freely admit this. I don't have a deep kind of thing for ZZ Top. Now, I'm not saying I don't like them. I just mean, like, aside from, like, Sharp Dressed Man and the like, from the Eliminator album, it's like, that's really all I know. Because when I was growing up, that came on. I was like, give me some of that. Everybody did that.
What about the Rough Boy video on MTV?
No, you gotta. I just said beyond anything from Eliminator, I know zilch.
But that was fun to watch. That's all I gotta say.
Sure. Yes. Very fun to watch. Legs, the whole 9 yards. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a great documentary on ZZ Top. I'm trying to remember if that was on Hulu. I think that might have been on Hulu. Sorry. I think that was on Hulu. And if it wasn't, it was on one of the other ones. Anyways, so I learned a lot. And the funniest thing is, so we've got a friend who runs Hello Sailor effects, and he and every single demo video he does this riff, and I'm like, what is this riff? What is this thing he always plays? And it's real simple. It's and then all of a sudden ZZ Top's playing it, and I was like, oh, that's why I hear that on not only his but all kinds of other demo people stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, I got an education on ZZ Top, and it was really great, and I have a new appreciation. Again, it's not that I don't appreciate them. It's not that I don't like them. I do. I just don't. The whole like Texas blues thing has never been my bag of chips, but I understand it and I get it, and I just get it was great to sort of go, hey, here's a whole new, for lack of better terms, book to read, and it was great.
All right,
so there's
all right,
that.
Well, you can never get a better riff than the opener of LaGrange. I mean, that's just the classic ZZ Top and gets you going from the start.
Yeah.
And talking about guitar knobs and stuff, I just wanted to ask, are you guys familiar with Pete Townsend's number 9 guitar?
Yes.
I mean, it's featured in my book, and how he put that extra switch at the bottom near the knobs. And I never really understood why he did that. It's so unique to have that. There's 3 pickup switches on that guitar.
Yep.
Yeah. He added a pickup in the center on that too, and he actually had the control cavity routed out beyond factory. And I was able to actually see some of the ones that were smashed that were collector owned, that a good friend of mine has a good business in Ohio that restored these guitars for the collectors back to good condition, playable condition. And now, as far as the wiring, I wish I could tell you, but all I got to see were the carcasses, and they were pretty cool.
So that's weird, because wouldn't you think that they'd be like 10 times more valuable smashed than they would restored to playable?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think if it were me and I was a collector with all the money in the world, I would want them put back together so I can play it and be like Pete Townsend.
Okay. Hey, let's go around the table here really quick. Talking about smash guitars. All right. There have been a lot of smash guitars, a lot of famous moments in smash guitars. Mm-hmm. I would like to know from each of you, and listeners out there be thinking of what you might say. If you could have one of said smash guitars throughout smash guitar history, whose would it be? And which guitar, whose would it be? Do you think we can do this? We can do it, right?
I already know you're...
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, for me, hands down, it would be Jimi Hendrix.
Oh.
I'm sorry. That's probably all your answers, but it's the mystique and just the whole, Hendrix is for me like the greatest guitar player, and the spirit that he had and that he infused into his guitars with hand painting them, and just the voodoo that he did around them. And talking about Pete Townsend, just like the whole story of how when one or the other band was supposed to open the show, I think it was at Monterey, and they had to they ended up flipping a coin to see who was going to go on first. And Jimmy won. So Jimmy went on first. And so he was like, how the hell am I going to do something that is going to be memorable, so when the Who go on, I'm still going to be more memorable after the show. And so that's when he got the lighter fluid out, and he smashed his guitar and he burned it on stage live, and everyone went crazy. And I'm sure you've all seen the videos where there's these girls up front with their faces just blank, like they just can't even believe that he's doing what he's doing. But hey, he made history, and no one ever forgot about that. So that's the guitar I want.
Awesome. Tony?
Now imagine being the Monkees and having Jimi Hendrix opening for you. I mean, and that's real. That's a real story. I don't think they wanted to go on after Hendrix because he was just so.
I don't think Pete Townsend did either.
Probably not. As for me, I would grab one of my all-time favorite photographs is an early picture of Pete Townsend and these probably 5 or 6, maybe more broken Rickenbackers in the background. It's an old black and white photo. And I love it. I mean, that's my favorite thing. And he always said that, he had trouble breaking Telecasters and Strats, but because the Ricks were maybe a little more fragile at the time, he had absolutely no problem snapping the necks off and the bodies in several pieces. So it would be a Pete Townsend smashed up Rick.
Wow.
Alrighty.
Okay, Jared.
I made that gruntle noise when Lisa said it's the pop festival one that he lit on fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one.
You can have that. You can both have that in our world.
Of course. And it's
NFTs.
And Jimi Hendrix, he was a pioneer of the way he played his tone. He's in a spot of his own. And on top of that, is his humble personality also is a factor because he was a truly humble musician. And that's why. I hate to sound commercial, Jimi Hendrix. It's easy to say, but because he was that famous because of how great he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that's the guitar. You can go Pete Townsend and name any guitar on any given night because he's got, I don't know, who knows how many guitars he's actually smashed. I bet he doesn't even know. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go the Pop Festival painted guitar. It was custom painted.
Yeah.
That guitar was
By him.
it was white and red, and then he's like, "I'm gonna destroy it on stage because I'm gonna."
The stuff.
And that's the guitar I want.
There you go.
Okay.
Todd, now it has to be a guitar, not a bass.
Nope, that doesn't. That's still. I mean, for me, my holy grail guitar, I think. When I'm gonna retract that statement because that's if we're just talking about smash guitars, without question, it is going to be. Tony, do you know what it is? Do you want to say it for me?
I'll say it's the Paul Simonon bass from London Calling.
That is correct.
Oh,
good one.
Arguably the most rock and roll picture ever taken in history.
Yeah.
The bass player from The Clash smashing the bass.
Jimi Hendrix burning the Pop Festival Strat. There's posters of it.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different. No, I'm not saying. I'm like the most. To me,
It's
the most
more recent.
rock and roll, like.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. Anyways, that to me represents what rock and roll is, 100%.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
All right.
Can we give an honorable mention to Kurt Cobain?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he smashed a lot of guitars as well, and probably influenced by Hendrix, who also died of age 27 as he did. They both were from Seattle. They were both left-handed guitar players, but he was probably influenced by Hendrix and by Pete Townsend. But he used to use cheap guitars, Strats built in Mexico or Japan, and he'd smash those instead of American-made Strats. But yeah, he did the damage too.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Someone want to ask me, why do you think artists smash their guitars? And
So why do you think artists smash their guitars?
Well, my answer was because they have an inner angst, and guitars are often named of women, like Lucille or and that they may be taking their aggression out on the guitar that they may have over women women issues, let me just smash this mofo, get my angst out about that bitch, oops, sorry.
It's okay.
You're
You're
all
all right.
It's too cool. Pete Townsend must have had a lot of girlfriends then.
Or just a lot of angst.
Well, we
Yeah.
know
know.
historically the one the Paul Simon basses, he was just so fed up with the monitors and the sound was so bad, and so he felt like the show was crap, so he just destroyed it. Just sort of like this show is done. Wild. Well,
Jimmy did it for show, I think.
yeah,
I would say
yeah.
so.
Well, that was a fun time. I'm very curious. Please send me your DMs and stuff based on what we just talked about. I'd love to hear if anybody has any ones that we haven't mentioned or anything like that. But let's get on to talking about this beautiful book in front of, well, probably all of us right now. Does everybody have their book?
I do.
Jared?
Check.
Lisa? I mean,
Check.
you kind of know it by heart. Yeah. So what does this thing clock in at? This is about a 10, 12-pound book?
Actually, my first book, 108 Rockstar Guitars, was 9 pounds. Is
Okay.
9 pounds. This one's about just under 6 pounds.
6 minutes. It feels like a 12-pound book, though.
Yeah, it's still pretty heavy.
Yeah. This-
And, heavy is a good word for it because this book has a lot of metal guitar players in it.
It does, yeah.
Versus my first. I got all the Iron Maiden guys. All of Metallica are in here.
388 pages worth of awesomeness.
Yeah, it's definitely a substantial book, and I'm so pleased that Peter Frampton agreed to write the foreword for it because
Really cool.
his guitar has the most immortal story.
Yeah.
Having been lost for 32 years, thought to have been lost in a plane crash wreckage, and 32 years later to get it back and be reunited is such an amazing story. He named the guitar Phoenix after that because it ultimately rose from the ashes. And it still has the burn marks on it and the diamond inlay and the headstock. It's missing 2 big pieces of the mother of pearl, and he just left it that way. He had it restored and strings replaced and things like that, but it still carries the wreckage wounds and holds the story of what happened to it. And it was reunited with him because obviously the guitar still had a mission.
Yeah,
with
for
Peter.
sure. A heck of one, too. So let's see. I want to go deep back, but I want to stay up front on this at the same time. Let me just ask you, so you write the first book and you're like, well, okay, I did that. What prompted you to embark on this one, Immortal Axes?
Momentum. When you have access and you've been given access to these amazing instruments, why stop? The first book, they always say books are a calling card for other things. You don't make money making coffee table books. It's a labor of love, and
you
it's
might
a big
now.
investment. A big investment on my part. Yeah, let's see it. It would be nice if this is hit #1 on Amazon. It should sell out. The publisher printed 10,000 copies of this book, so it's going to be interesting to get the first quarter numbers.
Outstanding.
And so, it's like even now people ask me, well, what's your next book? Like as soon as this one comes out,
Right.
everyone's ready for I have a lot of people writing me, I can't wait for your next book. And I'm like, okay, I need some sleep first before because the production that it put into a book like this is very substantial. You have to travel a lot to the artists all over the world. My last 2 shoots for this book was Paul McCartney finally said yes at the end of my production schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so I flew to London a second time in 2020 during this crazy world we're living in with COVID. And so I was able to go over there, and he allowed me into his studio, and I worked with his longtime guitar tech and manager, and we photographed his 1963 Hofner bass that we all know and love. And then I was in touch with Mr. Jim Irsay's camp because he owns a lot of significant guitars, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, and he was able to purchase the David Gilmour Black Strat that of course, David used on every single Pink Floyd album and sold at auction. And he also had the George Harrison Gibson SG that he used on the Revolver album, and that John Lennon actually used on the White album as well. So after I shot the Hofner, I got a hold of them and said, listen, guys, I really need to get to that George Harrison SG. And they let me, because Jim Irsay has all of his collection at the Colt Stadium that was on lockdown. So only the players were in there, practicing, and then they would have, if they had games, I guess there was no audience. So they went in there and they got the one guitar out for me, and they brought it to a studio in Indianapolis, and I got to photograph it. So those are the last 2 photo sessions for this book. And I had photographed John Lennon's J160E guitar that he used for both the bed-ins with Yoko a few years back, probably 5 years ago. Because back in the day when I worked for Eastman Kodak Company, working in New York City, Bob Gruen was one of my clients. I was his Kodak rep. And he had a young girl working for him, making prints for him and doing admin work for him. And because of John's relationship with Yoko over the years, because of course, he was John and Yoko's personal photographer for many years, this girl ended up becoming Yoko Ono's right-hand person over the years. And so I was able to photograph John's guitar because of that relationship, ultimately because of Bob Gruen, So I'm so fortunate to have been able to have access and to have the Beatles in this book, all 3 of them.
That's remarkable.
And that SG also was used by Pete Ham from Badfinger.
You got it.
On their hits, which is incredible. I mean, just to be able to touch something like that would be spine tingling.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I look through this book and I'm wowed myself. I go, wow, wow. I flip the page. Wow, that's actually my photograph. Wow, how did I get to that? B.B. King's, the last 2 guitars that he used, he was always using the Lucille with diamonds. That was this really special guitar that Gibson made for him, and it has 2 diamonds in the headstock. The eye in the Gibson and the eye in Lucille are like a 1-carat diamond in each one of those. And his daughter Patty lives in Las Vegas, and my girlfriend was BB's neighbor. And she used to take BB a cherry pie every now and then. And Patty would open the door, and she was always over with her dad, taking care of him. And so eventually she introduced me to him. And then right after he passed away, she brought his guitars over, and I photographed them. So it was the Lucille with diamonds, and then his number 3. The case says number 3, but it was his number 1 at the time that he was playing his Lucille.
I feel like if you went over to B.B. King's house and rang the doorbell, it would just do one thing. The one thing like that, he does. It would just hold that note. Hold it lower.
But I mean, there's a guy, like, how many guitar players did he influence, including Joe Perry, who has a Lucille guitar, except he wanted it named after his own wife, Billy.
Yeah.
And so the Trustmark cover has Billy on there. Yeah. Instead of Lucille.
That one's wild.
She's gorgeous, airbrushed on the front and the back of that guitar.
That's love right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so Tony and Jared, you've gone through this book, and I'm wondering if you want to, if you guys each pick, let's start, pick one guitar that you go, this guitar.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's a number of them. I mean, the Frampton one, the Frampton section is, that's probably my favorite. But the one that made me do some research on is the Tom Petty alleged flying V.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a real flying V. There's too many things wrong with it. The headstock is wrong. The body shape is wrong. The pickguard is wrong. The jack has a 50s style jack plate. I know that it was so-called authenticated as an early 70s Gibson, but
there was a lot of lawsuit stuff happening then.
Well, and that's kind of why I suspect that that it was either a homemade one or a Japanese one that was, somehow modified, whatever. Because there's a lot of things wrong with it that leads me to believe that it's not a true Gibson. And but hey, I've been wrong before. But there's I'll let people judge for themselves.
You do know quite a bit about guitar, so
well,
did you look at the James Hetfield one in the book?
Oh, that says F it.
That's
because
that looks
that
real.
one
That's
there.
a Greco.
Let's just compare. So if you guys want to have a look, Tom Petty is on page 161.
Yeah, I've got that one.
And Hetfield's on page 207. So
bingo.
So if you look at the pit guard, I see what you're saying. Like the Hetfield one, it's curvy, but see the Hetfield one is not authentic.
Yeah.
The Hetfield one was a Japanese knockoff.
Greco.
Yeah, probably a Greco. Well, even on the Petty one, the neck pickup is in the wrong spot.
The bolt thing on the back is a dead giveaway.
Yeah, on that one. But I think that the Petty one was actually a set neck guitar. So it's just kind of weird. I guess I kind of took a deep dive after looking at that. I said it just doesn't look right, and then I pulled up a bunch of other photos that were on the internet, and sure enough, it just doesn't look right.
Yeah,
but
and
it's a cool guitar nonetheless.
It's a super cool guitar, but aren't the actual knobs are in the switch?
They're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they were either three in line or a cluster of three.
But it was that's definitely the guitar he used on in the photo session.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not one that he used on an album.
Yeah,
it was owned by the tour manager, Mark Stimson. And so Tom couldn't afford a V at the time. And so he was like, hey, let me use that for the photo shoot.
Yep.
So they put it in the photo shoot, and Tom loved it so much they ended up using it, the likeness of it for the logo, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers logo. So that's what gives it provenance, and the fact that it is in their band photo.
Oh yeah, no, there's no doubt it's the same guitar.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a real Gibson.
That's actually one of the reasons I really like it, is that
I won't tell anybody.
It's odd. There are oddities about it, which I think Lisa, that's one of the I think the great things about when you go through this book. There are loads and loads of guitar books, and we talked about this. Actually, we prefaced this episode a few episodes back, and one of the reasons that we were really, really excited to get this is that you were focusing on a lot of things that weren't perfect and weren't necessarily exactly what you typically see. But a lot of guitar books tend to be like, this is this model guitar, and it's like, okay, well, thanks. But this is the stuff that has personal meaning to each of the players that you've focused on, and I think that's what we really love about all this stuff. At least I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like at the time they were how old they were, young, and they were just happy to get their hands on any guitar, you know? And so it really does show the stories and where they came from. And that's what's so cool about the Hetfield and the Kirk Hammett, with the Kill 'Em All Flying V's. That's what they used on that album way back then. And how they personalized them with James painting the skull and crossbones on the headstock, and the glue that they used to fix the horrible break that headstock had, and then it aged
brutal.
all yellow and crusty, and that he writes F it on there, and then puts the flipping the bird on the back with the danger sticker. I mean, it shows their personalities coming out without them. It personifies them without them being in the photographs themselves.
Well, they were. It also shows. And I think a lot of these do show that these players cared about the moment that they were in. They weren't care. It wasn't a focus on posterity. It wasn't a focus on anything else. It was what music pulls out of people, which is true emotion and appreciating the moment. Jared, how about you? Was there one that you?
So there's two that caught my eye. Someone I work with, he is a guitar junkie. He's a vintage guitar junkie. And he has a 66 Pelham Blue Trinity Lopez. Original with the chrome hardware and everything, and he brought it in, and I checked it out, and it's an amazing guitar. But the one that I would say that I wish I could just play and have fun with would be Peter Frampton's SG with the ebony tailpiece with it looks like they modified that so there's no tremolo system on it.
Yeah.
And I apologize. I don't remember what page that's on. I'm looking
16.
for it. So it's way
Follow along, everybody.
It's right at the front of the book, page 16.
It is, yeah. It's on the organ seat.
On his Hammond B. Yeah.
So those didn't come out till like 62, but I'm not going to argue what year it is. It doesn't matter. But and I don't see the screw holes for the sideways trim, but anyway, it looks like they took the trem apart. They took the spring out, and they just drilled holes for each string to be seated. Because if you take that little block and you slide it down towards the bottom of the guitar, you'll see that there's two screws there that hold that Maestro. That's a Maestro spring base, and it holds it in. So when you put the block over it, so he probably had to take that block off every time he changed the strings on that guitar. But I love the feel of those necks. I love the way that looks without the trem on it. It just looks really clean. And to me, that's in the picture you took. It was just absolutely brilliant on that organ seat too.
It was just amazing because that organ has toured with him throughout his whole career. And with Humble Pie. So it just made sense. And it's such a great combination. I wasn't familiar with that tailpiece on there, the wood block with the mother of pearl. And apparently that came standard on that guitar at that time.
Yes, it did. People know the era of 62, 63. Maybe the serial number looks wonky or something, but it doesn't matter. That's right.
Well, I mean, I'm at the mercy of who I'm working with when and so I got that year from Peter verified everything though that I wrote. Close enough. He had the opportunity to change that from a 61 to a 62 and he didn't. So
yeah.
Oh well.
I don't know. But you know what? They forget too. They forget what year or whatever it is too.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I love that guitar. That
it's a beauty.
I would choose that one. It is. I don't know if anybody else would, but that's just me. I would choose that one. I know you would not. You would find a gold and black one.
Well, not exactly, but somebody asked me. Tony asked me.
Todd, did you have a favorite?
Billy Duffy. So Lisa, Billy Duffy is one of my absolute biggest influences. Guitar Hero, The Cult was a huge band for me. And so when I got to page 343, for those who are following along, I see the original Cult, White Falcon, and that one is really, really special to me. And one of the things that I found interesting is I remember sitting in a friend of mine's apartment in Long Beach, California, when I was, I don't know, maybe 19, something like that, 18 or 19. And we went by his brother's room, and I said, because I saw there was a White Falcon there. And I had no money. I had a piece of garbage guitar, and I was just, I saw my idol's guitar, and I went and picked it up, and I looked on the back, and there was this big, like, vinyl circle snappy thing on the back, and I was so preoccupied with that, and I was like, what the heck is this? And I didn't have exposure to all kinds of amazing guitars. I didn't know anything really at that stage. I was just playing, poorly, and I was so focused on that I didn't even get to play because he said, "Hey, my brother's coming. We got to put that away." But I did hold it, and that has always bugged me. I was like, "Why was that? I've never, So here it is that you did a great picture of the back. And Tony, can you tell us the story on these back snaps?
Well, that was just a back pad. A lot of Gretches had pads on the backside. And all it was really there for was, a little bit of comfort, I guess, more than anything.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean,
Well,
go ahead.
I was told that it was to protect the back of the guitar, the patina, from the belt buckle scratches.
Yeah,
etc.
it does that too. And in some cases, probably on this one, if you lift that cover off, there's like a little hatch for the electronics.
That's what I thought it must have been. And I was like, this huge thing, is this? I thought there was going to be a hole the size of the pad in the back, and I'm like, that's dumb. Why would they do that?
Well, yeah, they're actually, the hatch is pretty good size because in order to get to all of the electronics and things, so they didn't have to load them through the F holes or the pickup routes.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that guitar in particular, would you mind telling any kind of history or story that you recall about shooting with Billy?
Well, I was invited to go to, I think it was Mate's, the storage, the rehearsal studio in Los Angeles. Billy had agreed to let me photograph the guitar, and I actually didn't know who was coming with the guitar, but I showed up at Mate's, and Bob, the owner there, he's very gracious. He's like, anytime you need a place to do a photo session, just call this place home, So I'm like, all right. So I'm in there setting up, and then in walks Billy with his flip-flops on and his little puppy, Winter, his dog Winter. And so it was just so cool that Billy personally showed up, super cash, and we did the photo session, and I love that wonky tremolo on there, and you can just see how old that guitar is and how much he's used
on that thing
it.
is ridiculous.
I mean, the Gretsch tailpiece on there, it's all like, it's just got a great character to it. And at the end of the photo session, he had his dog was wandering around, and the dog just walked into my set. And there he was. So I took the snap. There's the Winter looking on, with this classic guitar. And so I had my first book, 108 Rockstar Guitarists, with me, and I would give to the artists at the end of the photo session. And I signed it to him, and I said, "The fire in your guitar keeps me alive."
Yeah. Ooh. From She Sells Sanctuary.
Now, is that dog photo, that's the actual size of the dog next to the guitar?
Actually, the perspective probably makes the dog look a little bigger than he was. The dog,
that's a big puppy.
yeah. The dog, I was shooting from above, looking down on there. The dog was a puppy, but it was a decent sized dog. That dog's probably a 65-pound dog. Put it that way. I have boxers.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah. Maybe not too far off. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other ones that I found particularly interesting. Okay, this is going to get me into more trouble. I'm not like a big Dave Grohl nut. I'm not a big Nirvana nut, but I really do appreciate his presence in the rock and roll world.
He hangs out with all the
everybody,
the big timers.
Everybody. Everybody. He's
timers.
like the rock and roll ambassador of rock and roll.
He's like the hottest artist of all time right now, at the moment. Yeah.
But
he really is.
I really, when I turned to page 270 in your books, everybody, this
I feel like I'm in church.
This is the Dan. Turn to page 270 in your
how many
Immortal
there were in a
Axes.
hymn?
It's actually 266 in my book. Do I have a different book?
Well, he wants to talk about Dan Armstrong. So
it's the Dan Armstrong Lucite. And Tony, you've got a matching set of these, kind of.
You do?
Well,
that's impressive.
Kind of.
Kind of. kind of. It's they're not real ones.
They might be imposters.
They could be.
Yes,
but
from the Far East. But anyways,
mine weigh just as much as this one does.
It does. And I mean, look, I think anybody who has been exposed to guitar and played guitar, as soon as you see the Dan Armstrong Lucite guitar, it's just like, what? That's cool. It's super cool. It's super weird. And it was very ahead of its time at the when this was built. But the thing that got me is that when you flipped it, or the Black Flag tape on it.
Yeah,
I love punk rock, and I was like, man, okay, that's really cool. And and the idea that on highly collectible guitars, only made a handful. That there's someone's like, hey, let's put Black Flag sticker on it, and it's not even a sticker; it's tape to look like a sticker. Yeah. I appreciated that. I thought that was pretty punk rock. So
I agree, and he's got the Suicide, the Suicide Girl band on their sticker too.
Yeah,
Suicide Girl sticker. Yeah.
That's
what's cool about these artists is that they look at them as tools, and even though it's such a collectible guitar, they're still like, I'm putting a sticker on here, dude. This is what my guitar. I'm doing it, and he's not thinking about the value of the guitar or how it may
indeed in the moment, being in the thing, being in the present. Mm-hmm. I have one more question for you. Of all of these, do you recall one that was either particularly difficult, or that you were struggling to capture the essence of the guitar with?
Well, the most difficult guitar to capture in this book, believe it or not, was Joan Jett. As a woman, I have been photographing guitars for 26 years now, and I've single-handedly, as a woman, probably photographed more significant guitars in the world. I'm going to throw that out there because I know a lot of guitar magazines photograph guitars and they hire different photographers to do each one. I mean, I've single-handedly photographed over 600 significant guitars.
Yes.
And Joan Jett, so as a woman, I really wanted to honor women in rock.
Yeah.
And there's not that many in the sea of men that get the credit. And so Joan has always been one of the number one people that I wanted to photograph, and I could not get access to her. She apparently doesn't like to have photographers around.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. A lot of bands don't, they want to have some photographer hanging around.
Yeah.
I think
she's
that
been
they
doing
don't
it her entire life. So
over it,
Yeah.
So I think that the message was never getting across. You don't need to be there. I just need your guitar.
Yeah.
I don't think somehow they weren't reading my full request. Anyway, when I was nearing the end of production for this book, I thought I got to try one more time. It's so important to me to have Joan, especially because I have Lita Ford, who I admire, and she's such the queen of metal. She's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have Lita. It's so important to have Joan. And of course, I had Ricky Byrd as well, who's a Blackheart. He was Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Ricky Byrd wrote the riffs. And so it was so important to me to get Joan. So one more time, I went out to them and said, listen, all you need to do is say yes. I will arrange everything else through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because she had this Epiphone there. And I'd been there shooting other guitars. So I researched it and found out that this guitar was there. And they said, oh, that's fine. If you want to do it at the Rock Hall, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it was easy.
No
After
skin off
so
our
many
nose.
years of getting no. It was such an easy a yes for them when it was presented to them that way.
Yeah.
So she was one of the hardest to get, and I was so grateful to finally get her.
Talking about the women in rock, one of the things that I really appreciate that you did was the afterword. That's what it's called. From Suzi Quatro. Like when I was a kid, Suzi Quatro was like just like, so cool. And
Leather Tuscadero.
I actually have the Suzi Quatro album, which I think personally is one of my favorite album covers of all time.
I know, super hot and sexy with that leather suit.
And the guy drinking the beer, just like, I mean, it's fantastic. It's so cool.
Yeah, I guess they wanted her to wear something else, and she was like, "Listen, I'll do it, but I'm wearing a leather jumpsuit."
Yeah.
Because she said that's just who I am. She loved Elvis, and she wanted to be like Elvis.
Yeah.
And so the Elvis wore leather, the black leather, and so she did it, and that was the best thing that she could have ever done because she looked super hot and sexy in that outfit and made herself stand
tough.
out. And
she looked tough. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, both her and Joan kind of coming up in the same era right there. And I just personally appreciated when I got to the end of the book, I was like, that's cool because it is so dominated by men's you know, male guitars and everything. And this was a person who, you know, the history doesn't allow for a lot of this kind of grandeur and exposure from from female guitarists or just females in general, especially back then. And so the fact that she was also a pioneer probably doesn't get as much credit as Joan and the Runaways and everything, but you know, doing her thing. And I just really appreciated that because like that's cool right there.
That means a lot to me. I'm really glad, and I'm sure that'll mean a lot to Susie, because to have a woman's voice in this book, I think is especially important right now, especially as women are on the rise in being respected in the world of rock, and that Susie was the first one to break out. She really was the first single solo artist to break out. And her sister Patty Quattro was in the Pleasure Seekers. They were the first band to get signed, an all-girl band that got signed for record. So, and then Joan Jett followed Susie around. Susie was Joan's idol. She was at all of her shows that she could never. A lot of people mistook one for the other. Back in those days when Joan broke out, they thought they kind of dressed the same. Yeah, they looked the same.
Well, and anybody that saw her on Happy Days, you know, that helped. So,
so I don't want to move on without mentioning the Wilson sisters. Heart is probably my all-time favorite female-fronted band in the world. Yeah. I'm in love with those ladies. If I met them, I would gush. I mean, even today. So I mean, seriously, when I was a kid, when they had hits that came out in the 80s and 90s, so I agree. I wanted to mention the sisters before we moved on.
Yeah. Well,
the first record LP I ever bought was Kiss, Hotter Than Hell. And the second album I bought was Heart, Dog, and Butterfly.
It's a good album.
I love, I was able to capture, her guitars are in my first book, but again, in the second book, because she has just so many cool, amazing stories. And one of them is, I did capture her Martin that she plays Dog and Butterfly on, and it has a butterfly guitar strap on it.
Huh.
Pretty nice.
She's playing tomorrow night with Styx here in Las Vegas.
No kidding.
Oh, wow.
Well, I just want to wrap up that last conversation that we were having, and we're gonna exit and get on to some a quick little bit and let you get on with your evening. I know you've got some important things going on.
Well, I'm having dinner with Lon Friend tonight, who wrote the Cosmic Tale at the very beginning of the story of the book here.
Oh.
I don't know if you noticed that, a Cosmic Guitar Tale, and it was written by Lon Friend, who was the editor of Rip magazine for many years. And Lon and I have worked together with a lot of photo sessions for this book, and he's an amazing human being.
Fantastic. Too cool. Well, we're going to speed through this last bit and then let you go, okay?
Sure.
All right, Jared, we do your thing here.
Well, let's go on to Jaredville to play a little game of Would You Rather? So this Would You Rather is from our old buddy, Don Kloss. Your band has finally made it. You are opening for 10 dates of a major band's U.S. tour. You get a nice dressing room, catered with the same food the headliners get. You are, however, allowed one additional menu item. I like this, Would You Rather? Do you, as a band leader, choose, because of course the band leader chooses the extra item, vegetable thins, tomato and basil wheat thins, or chicken and a biscuit.
Chicken and biscuit, those are crackers, everybody.
Yeah, the wheat thin brand yummy
Yeah,
snack.
it's all the weird. Yeah, those are throwback crackers too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. We haven't gotten a food one before. All right. Well, so okay, we'll start off with Tony and Jared, and then we'll check with Lisa, and then we'll let her get on her way.
I'm choosing only green M&Ms because green M&Ms are the sexiest of all M&Ms.
I agree, but you have to choose a cracker.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do the veggie chips.
Veggie chips are vegetable thins.
Vegetable thins, whatever they are.
Okay.
Tony.
I like veggies.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you do.
Especially when they're coated in sour cream.
Yes, and salami. All right, Jared, about yourself.
Of course, the tomato and basil wheat thins, and I'm going to eat the whole box by myself.
Okay. All right, Lisa.
I'm going also for the tomato and basil wheat thins.
Really?
And I hope they're going to have a side of hummus because that'll go
Yes.
well together.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
now what would the little kid you have chosen?
M&Ms, hands down.
Well, no, with the crackers. The crackers.
No, I don't want any crackers.
All
If
right.
I'm a little
Okay, you
kid.
get the M&Ms.
I agree.
Oh, well, I'm taking the vegetable thins because when I was a kid and I was eating like those vegetable thins, they don't taste anything like vegetables. They are delicious.
Yeah, deep fried,
They're so
delicious
good.
hunks of
Oh,
zest.
so salty.
Am I missing out on something?
Yes, you
Because when I
are.
see the word vegetable, I run away.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah,
You both
especially
do.
when you're a little kid.
Slowly,
Yeah.
but you do.
I do like veggies.
Anyhow, all right, Tony, we got to say a whole bunch of thank yous, but we're going to do it in not a whole bunch of time. So let's do it.
Okay, let me do my best.
You're going to do your best because it's got to be better than the last one that I did.
Can I mention that, boy, this show really sucks without me.
It does. Hey, it's different without you. And
Let's go over the real important part that I say every week.
yes, I
Yes.
tried to work that in poorly as well. So I'm
Yes.
glad you guys are we're all here together. So Tony, do this right.
You know, Todd, at this point in the show, there's a special group of people that I like to thank, that we like to thank, all of us, collectively and individually. These are our executive producers. Now, an executive producer is a person that goes over to patreon.com/the guitar knobs and provides a little monetary support to help make this podcast possible. Each level comes with a great bevy of thank you gifts, things like, t-shirts and picks and stickers, and just go to Patreon and check it out. There's all kinds of good stuff.
It's awesome.
As an executive producer, you get all the good stuff,
That's right.
but there's one thing more, Jared,
You get to have your name read on the thing.
and your name read on the thing, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers: Moon Guitars, Veteran Pedals, Drew Lopez, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Gary Cooper, Jason Roush, Mikey T, Richard Kendall, Mark Garton, Matt Hart, James White, Justin Jones, Anthony Gemalero, Bill Gola Guitars, John Esterly, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Lawrence Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Doug Christ, Darren Gregory, John Anglin, and Tom Brazen. But wait, Todd, don't interrupt
Hey,
me.
Tony.
All right, gosh dang it. Come on.
Boy, oh boy, what do I have to do to get someone's
I didn't have a
attention
cue
around here?
card.
There's another group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs.
Ooh.
This ever-growing group of supporters really does make it possible. We do
They make it possibler.
make it more possibly. Our Grand Poobahs get something very special. They get a fez to wear while listening to the podcast. So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs. Tommy Manasco, Ricardo Igareda, David Kaminga, Brandon Wound pickups,
Who?
Hex Matos, Michio Murakishi, Bob Crouch, Jack Caden, Sam Jett, Tyler KC and the Sunshine Band Rhines.
No. sorry, Tyler. Go ahead. That's the last time we'll hear that one. Go ahead.
LSJ Music Company, John Williams, James Pennington, Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Cody Foster, Science of Sound, Brian Robison, Jonathan Jerusik, also known as 12th Hour Devices, Corey Nigro, Michael Van Zant, Tim Nowak, Jonathan Daly, Martin Cliff, Sean S. And most importantly, Rat King.
Right
also
on.
known as Caleb Myson Joyce.
Yes, sir. New person who's just signed up. We're very happy to have him along. Thank you, one and all, for helping us do this and for supporting us. I mean, with so much morale. It's great. We love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we need to say a ginormous thank you to Lisa S. Johnson for joining us on our show. And then this has been super great. And I really appreciate that you're out there doing this. And I am just really grateful that we got the opportunity to have you on the show, to get your book, and that it's available to all of our fans to be able to go through this as well.
Well, I am so happy to chat with all you guys. It's really been a fun time, and you all know your stuff. And so it's always a nice learning exchange and insightful to bounce back and forth on different things. I love all the things you brought up about the book, and it's really an honor to sit with you and to share. And I really, really appreciate your appreciation for my work.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for having me on.
Let's do it again on your next awesome book.
You got it.
Okay.
Love to.
And now, where can people go to get this and or to find you in any other kind of way that you want them to?
The book is easily found on Amazon.com, and just type in, search Immortal Axes, guitars that rock. Just Immortal Axes, and it'll come right up. That's where you're going to get the best price. If anybody buys the book and they want a signed book, all you have to do is find me on Instagram at LSJ Rock Photos and send me a direct message, and I will mail you a signed custom signature plate. It's got the cover of the book on it, and there's a signature section. So if any of you guys want me to mail you one, I'll sign it to you and I'll send it off.
Well, I'll send you an email. Yes.
Yeah, send me an email and I'll be sending each a custom signature plate, and I will mail it to you, and so you can use it in your book.
Thank you.
So just LSJ Rock Photos. That's my Instagram, Twitter, and my Facebook. All the same.
Awesome.
All right. Tony, where can people find you?
Well, you just want to go over to pickguardian.com, check out some of the things that I have available for sale. Shoot me an email. Let me know what you want, because I do mostly custom work, especially these days, a lot more custom work.
Indeed.
Let me know what you need, what you want, what you're trying to do, and I will make it happen.
Yep. Jared?
Find me on Jared Pickup Winder Brandon on Instagram.
What?
Yeah, so I made it off the old Brandon wound, though, so I might have to change it to a different
You couldn't
email
think of a longer one?
No.
So what is it again?
Because I just like it.
Could you have Jared Electrical Pickup Winder?
Wait, what is it? For real, what is it?
Jared Pickup Winder Brandon.
Pickup Winder Brandon. Okay.
Find me. My face is on there. My stupid face is on the thing. So that's me.
22 letters. Woo!
Yeah.
Well, that's you win Scrabble with that one.
You got to make them work.
I don't babysit that account, so still go through Todd's guitar.
No. You start babysitting. You sit on that nest egg. All right. Well, thank you for doing that, and hopefully everybody can find you. You can shoot me an email, todd@theguitarknobs.com. You can also DM me on Instagram @guitarknobs, and I, of course, will handle anything that you want to send to Jared if you can't find whatever he just called his Instagram. And
Todd, you're a lamb, buddy. You are a lamb.
So, Susie, we're going to let you go, and thank you so much again. Have a
You want to
great
stop
night.
that, Todd?
What?
He just called her Susie.
He can call me Susie any
I'm
day.
looking at Susie Quattro right now.
She's my cosmic sister. She's my.
That's really funny.
Gotta leave it in, old buddy.
I love it.
Susie, I'll see you
I
later.
love it.
He meant no
Yeah,
disrespect.
let me do that again.
Of course
All right.
not. I know. I love her, and she's truly is a cosmic sister. So
Yeah.
that's just fine. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for having me on, and have a great night. And keep rocking.
All righty, everybody. Have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe!
Yeah. Tony, you specialize in the crazy stuff.
Because he's 6'8" and about 350. So what?
Everybody exaggerates my height.
Tony's back.
All right, I'm gonna leave and come back.
What? Why?
I don't see Jared.
All right, I'm not clipping
Bloody
there.
hell.
We're good. All right.
All right, you bozos.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at guitarknobs. Catch you next time.